Hi everyone, hope you're well. It is Sunday the 26th of January and tonight you're here with your host Arsh Ellahi. So first of all, I want to say thank you very much for spending some time with me this evening. I appreciate Sunday. I appreciate you've been watching the FA Cup and what a result that was for Shrewsbury against Liverpool. I shouldn't really talk about football, but I had it on in the background and it's quite riveting. So yeah, okay. So let's get moving on. So what are we talking about tonight? Tonight, we're talking about the three main property strategies you should be concentrating on 2020. Now, just so that you know, let's get all the disclaimers out of the way. What I'm teaching tonight is not rocket science, which means that you watching here, right now, can do everything that I'm going to tell you to do. Now, all you have to do is literally grab a pen, grab a pad, and take all the notes of everything that I'm about to say. And by following it and by being consistent with your actions, you can do this too. So if you're joining me on Instagram, if you're joining me on Facebook, if you're joining me on YouTube, first of all, give me a quick hello. If you're live with me on the webinar, please feel free to give me a quick hello. Let me know that you're with me and let me know that you can hear me nice and loud and clearly. Because tonight we're talking about the three main property strategies that I'll be focusing on for 2020. Now, when you hear what I'm about to say, and if you hear what we're going to be going through, you'll realize how simple this is. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is how you can monetize every lead and turn it into a deal. And when you think about what you've seen and what you've come across, and more importantly, as a result of not knowing what you didn't know, you'll realize how much of an opportunity you may have previously missed. But following on from Sunday, the 26th of January, how this may potentially revolutionize your property forward thinking and your approach to property. So lots of claims there, lots of massive claims there, and I make no apology for that, because today, when I was preparing these slides, I came here with one intention. The intention is to make sure that you guys have got everything that you're going to need to progress and grasp and grab 2020 by the horns and make it your year. So if we're in the right room, and without making this all American and happy clappy, if you can, just give me a quick, are you in the right place? A quick yes or no. Do you like the sound of what we're talking about? And tonight is all about participation. If you don't answer, we'll cut it short and we'll move on. So I will be very short and sharp and to the point with what we're going to cover tonight. And I make no apologies about that. We're going to be online for 90 minutes and it's going to be pure 90 minutes gold. More importantly, I'm going to back up every claim that we're talking. Anything that I say, I will back it up with a live example as to how this worked and how we monetized it too. I'm hoping, I've got the property wife on Instagram, who is actually my wife. Hi, Shireen. So Shireen's actually stood in the airport at the moment and she's on her way back. I'm hoping that she's going to live log in with us. So it's bit.ly/2020 property strategy in capital letters, and let's get you moving forward. Remember, guys, this is an interactive session, and without your interaction, this session will really not work. So first of all, I want to say thank you for joining me this evening. I appreciate Sunday evening. I appreciate there's lots of things that you can be doing. You can be getting ready for work. You can do preparation for the following week, but you're spending the next 90 minutes with me. So by the end of this session, what are we going to hope to have achieved? First of all, I want to get you involved. First of all, I want to get you involved so that you understand how to get started in property with no money and no experience. And again, I'm going to back this up with a live example. I'm going to show you how to make cash flow from simply controlling properties. And again, I will back this up with live examples. And finally, how to monetize every lead by following a simple 3-step system. And when you hear this system, you're going to kind of kick yourself to think, well, you know what? I can't believe I've not done this sooner. I can't believe that I didn't really think about this. Now, I don't proclaim to be a rocket scientist. I don't proclaim, if anyone meets me, I'm kind of probably the most down-to-earth person that you'll meet. And I'm probably the simplest guy that you'll probably meet as well. I like to keep things simple. I like it to the point. Can I operate it? Can I make it work? Yes, let's get moving on with it. And that's kind of my mindset. I'm going to be sharing with you some of my goals for 2020. I'm going to be asking you your goals for 2020. And I'm going to really want some real answers as to what you're going to be doing for 2020, but more importantly, how are you going to be achieving those goals? So we're really going to ask some questions of you tonight. So a little bit about me, for those that don't know who I am. So my name is Arsh Ellahi. First and foremost, I'm a property investor. I've been investing in property for the last 19 years. And I'm a prolific deal sourcer. So I've got approximately 1,100 tenants. I'm a prolific deal sourcer. Yes, I do train some people, but more importantly, why should I be sitting here talking to you this evening? What gives me that authority? First and foremost, one of the things that I say is that if you want to learn something, you go to the best in that field. And one thing I will say is that I like to think that I am the best in the field for deal sourcing and deal trading. There is no question on that. In actual fact, I'm a pioneer in the industry for creating the UK's first marketplace for property investment deals. Now, for those that don't know, and if you don't know, I actually launched an app, a mobile app called Property Investor. It's available on iOS App Store and Android Google Play Store. And you can download it literally by going to the App Store, typing in Property Investor. I'm the first person in the UK to be able to release an app which showcases all kinds of property deals all over the country. And these are all deals that we've sourced, packaged, and we've got them on the app. I'll talk to you about my vision for the app and how you guys can get involved in that. Like I said, first and foremost, I'm a property investor. I've been investing in property for a long time, and I've traded hundreds, tens of thousands of properties over the years. I'm a leading columnist in 2 very well-known magazines called Your Property Network and the HMO magazine. I've been writing in them for the last 5 years. I've spoken at events all over the country, and some people perceive me as, I don't like using this word, but as an influencer in the industry. So people talk to me about some of the things that they're doing. There's lots of things that I've done that I've brought to the forefront of property. So I've done a lot within a very short space of 19 years. I'm also a best-selling author of a book called Boom, Bust and Back Again, which, as the title suggests, it's never always been easy. And in that respect, I've made a lot of money. I've also lost a lot of money. And I'm back here to tell the tale. And I've helped hundreds of people achieve financial freedom. So that's just a little bit about me. Now, park me to one side, because tonight is not about me. It's all about you. It's all about you. What we're going to be looking at tonight is, who are you? Now, we're going to start this by asking, what are your goals for 2020? What has brought you here this evening? I'm going to ask you some very direct questions, and I'd like you to answer these. If we don't get the participation, we'll cut this session short. What's brought you here this evening? Is it that you've just seen a bit of marketing, and you thought, oh, that sounds quite interesting? Or have you genuinely got an interest in property? What sparks your interest in property? Is it the fact that you want to get involved in property with very little money? Is it the fact that you want to build a portfolio? Is it that you want to build some cash flow? You know, what has brought you here? So some of the questions, some of the answers that are coming in on the webinar straight away is that I want to be free from my job. I want to start asset building. I've got a genuine interest to build cash flow. I want to get started. I want to get cash flow on 2 properties this year. 2 properties this year, Alex. Follow what I say, and you'll have 2 properties by the end of this week. A big claim. 2 properties by the end of this week, I'll back it up. I want to source and sell 4 deals a month. That's from Kelvin. I want to learn new strategies and build my portfolio. Guys on Instagram, guys on Facebook, guys on YouTube, you're a little bit quiet. So what has brought you here? What's your spark in, what's the interest in property? So lots of people say, I want to spend more time with my family. I've got a burning passion for property. I came here as a result of trying to source deals for a new rent-to-rent venture this year. I want to replace my wages. I used to source property and now do online lead generation. That is really interesting, Mo. I want to build a portfolio. I want to build a legacy. I'm looking to start in property. I want a house to develop by the end of Feb. I want to make 100 grand. So these are all the answers that are coming through on the webinar. And these are phenomenal answers. You've set your stall out. You've set your stall out because you're telling me what you want to do. Now, the next thing that we've got to do is find out what is the vehicle that's going to get you there. So Palmy on Instagram says, I want to learn new property strategies. That's absolutely great, because the best way that I describe it is the best property investor is the one that's got all the tools in his toolbox to be able to look at any property and solve the problem. And we'll talk about problem solving shortly. So we've got so many answers coming in, they're flooding in on the webinar. So my question is, feel free to keep putting them along and I'll go. So some of the answers that come through, they want to escape the rat race. Some people will literally just want to say, I want to make some money to pay for luxuries such as holidays, cars, whatever it may be. Some people want to help their family get onto the property ladder. They want to help their kids get onto the property ladder. They want to help their kids get through university. And these are all valid reasons. Some people just want to create a pension plan. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Building something for the future, building something for your future, building something for your kids and your generation's future. They are all valid reasons. Now, just so you know, I've got 2 very young kids. I've got a very lovely wife who's given 2 very young kids. They're 6 and 4 as we speak. So everything that I do, I'm not doing for me and my wife. I'm making sure that we've got enough to live on, but I'm making sure that they have a phenomenal future, just like my parents did for me. So let's get moving on. So how do you visualize success? One of the things is it owning a certain amount of properties? Is it about having the properties generate a certain amount of cash flow? Is it about sourcing a certain amount of deals? Because these are things. Now, I read a book recently and it says you've got to have a massive goal. You've got to absolutely have a huge goal that is actually unthinkable. Now, when people say to me, well, I want to make 2 grand a month, that's not a big enough goal. That's not a big enough goal. Your goal is that my goal is going to be 10 grand a month. Because what happens when you hit the 2 grand a month goal? Yeah, you can raise the bar, but you should have gone out with the 10 grand, because you can then hit the 10, say, you know what, in actual fact, I want 20 grand a month. And there's nothing wrong with that. My question again to you, if you're watching, what are you going to do to get there? What's your plan? What's the big plan? Where is plan for year 1? What is the plan for getting you to the end of 2020? What is your plan for the next year 3? What is your plan for the next year 5? What is your plan for the next 10 years? Now, I'm going to give you a date. And this date is very specific to me. And I appreciate that this is very specific to me. But the 11th of November, 2025, at 11:59 p.m. If you want to make it even more specific, 11:59 p.m. and 59 seconds. Why is that date so significant to me? Because in my book, Boom, Bust and Back Again, I wrote about a time where I was literally on my knees on the brink of bankruptcy. And what I said to myself is that I never want to be in this position ever again. And I set a date for the day before my 45th birthday is the day that I retire. My wife thinks I'll never retire, and she probably is right. She probably is right. But the one thing that I have set is that I've set a goal, I've set a target, I'm working towards that goal. By the time of the 11th of November 2025, I will have a portfolio which is completely unencumbered. I will have an asset bank, which I can then pass on to my kids. They do whatever they want. They can go and liquidize it, spend it on cars, no, on handbags and shoes, because obviously the girls, not stereotyping or anything like that, but they can do whatever they want with it. The point is, I've set the goal, I've set the target, I've set the bar. The bar is to get, have a portfolio, in excess of £30 million, where they've then inherited that. That's theirs. They do whatever they want. I've done my job. I've done my job as a father. I've done my job as a provider. I've done my job as a husband. I've done my job as a dad. What they do with that, they can have a phenomenal life just off the back of that. So these are my personal goals. So lots of questions coming in, and this is phenomenal. Like I said, tonight is a session all about interaction. Now, tonight, I'm going to go through the basics of what is deal sourcing, what is deal trading. First of all, let's keep it very simple. I have not created a system for deal sourcing or deal trading. It has existed for tens of years. In essence, we're a service for homeowners. We're a matchmaking service for property investors to homeowners who failed to sell their property. In essence, we're a glorified estate agent. Let's not make us any more than that. We are, in essence, an agent. We've got the vendor selling the property. We've got a purchaser wanting to buy a property. We're in the middle that has facilitated the whole transaction. So therefore, we are, in essence, a glorified estate agent. The beautiful thing with us is that as a deal sourcer, we are not confined to an area. Connells Wolverhampton will only source property in Wolverhampton. Connells Birmingham will only stick to Birmingham. Arsh Ellahi covers the UK and beyond. Felt a bit like Buzz Lightyear there, but yeah, no, that's cool. I'll run with that. Okay, so can run and look at any property within the country. I have no restrictions as to what I look at, where I look at, and how I look at it. Even more, I've taken it further overseas into different countries, because when we learn to source and we learn the strategies behind sourcing, there's no restrictions as to what you source. So you could source cars, you could source watches, you could source anything that's got a value attached to it, where someone's selling something and you've got the ability of finding a buyer who wants to buy that. Well, let's call it a commodity. Seller, buyer, put them together. We're the trader. Bang, we're right in the middle. Therefore, we've got a service that we can charge a fee for. Does that make sense? Is everyone still with me? So, okay, so a service to investors where we're helping investors find properties which they would not have found of without our help. And more importantly, the one thing that I really like is the fact that I create win-win scenarios for homeowners and property investors every day of the week. So this is a big one. So in 2019, I actually facilitated the sales of £54 million worth of properties that we traded in 2019, which is probably more than most estate agents were selling a year, probably more than most auction houses were selling it in a year. And this is me acting as a one-man band, selling deals to my database. I'm going to show you how you should be that person, how you can be me. More importantly, I've set a huge goal, 2020. I've got some personal goals, I've got some fitness goals, and I've got my business goals, and everyone should have these. My goals for 2020 business is that I want to become the largest, the well-known deal trader in the UK. I have the ability to be that person. With the app, with the property investor app, I've got the mechanics, I've got everything in place to be that person. And I want to trade 1,000 properties in 2020. And we're off to a great start in 2020. I've got some personal goals. I'm going off in a couple of weeks to Oman to do Ironman 70.3, which is half an Ironman. I'm doing the Ironman in Bolton in July. 2020, and I'm doing the Paris Marathon. So they're my fitness goals. So everything kind of works together. So these are my goals, but that's enough about me. Now, one of the things that I am going to talk about is women in property. Now, what part of my marketing for this session was about talking about women in property. Now, property is without a doubt a male dominated sector, and there are so many women in property doing such a phenomenal job, and I see it. They're actually doing a better job at property than men. And I put my hands up to that. I see some phenomenal women in the industry who are doing some fantastic things, but yet they never get the recognition. It is still considered an old boys club. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because, again, backing this up, my wife, who is actually online, who is actually probably sat in an airport as we speak. Oh, I'm going to unmute her. So she is sat in the airport, and I said to her, Shireen, I said, I need you to come and share your story. And it's probably not going to work, probably because she's on her mobile phone. Hi, Shireen.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hello, my lovely. It's the first time that I'm actually speaking to my wife in a week. You know. So
where
Shireen.
have I been for a week? Okay, so 3 years ago, I would have never been able to do what I've just done. It's not school holidays, it's term time, and I've spent 4 days with my absolute best friend in Dubai doing the marathon, and just spending a few days away, just catching up, refreshing ourselves, and just kind of gathering our thoughts. Now, 3 years ago, I couldn't have done that at all. It would have been an issue about time, it would have been flexibility, having to be at school, not having to do anything else. And the only way that I can do that is through the option of changing my career, changing what I want, changing my priorities, changing how I want to run my life, how I want to live my life, what's important to me now. And when Arsh first came to me and said, you know, have you thought about doing property? You know, you see me do it, and you know, it might be for you. And my answer was always, no, I don't know enough. I can't do it. It's not my kind of thing. I'm not good at finances. I'm not good at this and this. And I think what I wasn't doing was giving myself credit for all the things that I am good at. I'm organised. I can figure things out quickly. So I can work out if something needs to be done now, whether it needs to be done later. I can prioritise. You know, I can organise a project. I can see how to figure out how much things cost. Can I get it cheaper elsewhere? Basically, shopping. I'm great at shopping, negotiating. I'm good at that. I can get a good deal. And all of those skills that I guess I had and didn't know is what Arsh says would make me really good at property. So last year, he said, let's start with something that isn't too much in terms of a commitment. And you get a bonus out of it. You get a nice place to go and enjoy whenever you want to. So that kind of sold me. We started off our property journey, took on one, and I've learned so much along the way. Anything I don't know, I can Google. I ask Arsh. And not only that, Arsh introduced me to some WhatsApp groups with other serviced accommodation professionals. And I would just pop a message in there. Does anybody know where I can get this? Or has anybody experienced this? Can somebody help me with this? And I found that people coming to me and saying, how did you do that then? So just huge amounts of networking potential. And the good thing about working alongside Arsh is he's not all just theory, it's practical. If you need something done, he'll send you somebody's number and you'll be like, talk to this person, they'll be able to help you with that. Or, yeah, this is how you do this. And sometimes I'll say, oh, I'm thinking about doing this in a property, and, you know, and he'll say, do you know, from my experience, that isn't going to work. And that's what you need. You need somebody who's a seasoned veteran. You need somebody who's honest, who's somebody who, you know, can just be blunt with you. And, you know, as my journey's continued, I've gone from one, and recently we've just taken on another using a different strategy. Scared me a bit, I must admit, but I've loved it. And there's been times when Arsh has had to say to me, you know what, this is your project. This is a hard thing you have to do, but you're going to do it. And it's built me as a person, and I've really had to do that.
Can I just stop you there? Sharon has just come in. Yes, but yes, but we're all married to an Arsh. No, to be fair, can I say that is actually a negative? For sure.
Yes. Because I don't get access to him during the day. So I get access to Arsh between maybe 6 p.m. and 6:15, maybe 2 times a week. And I have to fire all my questions at him when he's in the mood. So yeah, he can help me out here and there, but the majority of stuff he's kind of guided me, and I've just picked up and I've learned myself. The other thing that's really helped is because I'm a teacher by trade, I've helped Arsh get a lot of his materials in order, turn them into modules, look at the progression of lessons, and just by reading that material, just by understanding it, I gained so much. Just sort of looking at, right, oh, I understand that now, and that's why you structure your HMOs that way. And then I've started asking questions like, okay, so what legislation do you have to have in place in order to meet that? And right, why do you have to have these kind of fire safety doors? Why can I not have that? So a lot of the stuff I've picked up from the material Arsh has already got. So yeah, he's you would think he'd be a brilliant mentor, and between 9 and 5 every day I'd be stuck by his side, but unfortunately not. 6 to 6:15, and that's my max, 2 times a week. Is that right, Arsh?
If I'm honest, I've been quite strict on Shireen because, as Sharon said there, it would be far too easy for me to say to Shireen, okay, you do this, here's what you do, here's where you go, here's who you call, here's what you do. And I said to Shireen, no, you have done some phenomenal things in your career. You've been a deputy head teacher, which means that she's structured in her approach. She's brought up, like lots of other women, she's brought up 2 children. She had no property experience. And I said, well, you're going to do this, and off the back of that, you're going to make this a success. So, I mean, there's lots of questions that will be coming through for Shireen. Now, Shireen put in there that she works flexible working hours. So, Shireen, what I'd like you to do is just very quickly, just give us an indication of, the 2 properties that you talked to us about. The 2 properties. I've got the slides up coming up in a second for the 2 properties.
Yeah, okay.
What made you want to do this project?
Okay, so the first project that we took on was a property in Cornwall, and I think the big bonus for me was the fact that the option to purchase after 5 to 10 years, and I think that commitment and being able to say, actually, if we make this work, which it will, because we had all the figures, Arsh had done all the homework, and we had all of that, we knew that we were onto something, that would potentially be brilliant for us. It's been 1 year since we started the deal. We spent 2 weeks refurbing it. I wanted to get it up to a high standard. And surprisingly, we'd never been to Cornwall before. So the first time we went to Cornwall was to see this property. As soon as we walked in, I knew that it had all the foundations of a brilliant SA, service accommodation. It just needed some light touches. We had a small budget, and we did it up to a very high standard. And I manage it from 4.5 hours away, and it works seamlessly. I had to teach myself how to use a lot of the platforms. I had to teach myself whether I wanted, providers to do that for me, whether we wanted to self-manage. So I've taught all of that, and I've managed to do that. This year, we struggled to get into the property ourselves. We were fully booked. I was fully booked over Christmas. I've had, in January, normally you don't get a soul in sight. We've had bookings, haven't had an issue, and then I've already got quite a few of my summer weeks booked up already. The amount of probably time I spend at the moment, 15 minutes a week. I check in with the cleaning team that are down there. They do a fantastic job. If I need to do something, it's an online order, it gets straight there, and I've got all those systems in place. So in terms of my actual time, not very little time is spent on this. Initially, I had to learn the trade. I had to learn how to do it. And I really enjoyed that process. So, and what I found was it was a lot easier than I thought. I think I know as women, we're our own harshest critics, aren't we? We're tough on ourselves, and give yourself a little bit more credit and say, I can do this. I know what to do. And if I don't know, I'm really good at finding out. So that was, I think, our first project. Our second one was our recent acquisition, and slightly different strategy. And what I like about this one is its character. It's it was something, I think on the 4th of January, no, it was later than that, phone call from Arsh. He said, do you fancy helping me on something? And whenever Arsh says that, put the phone down and don't pick up again, because it normally means he's got some work for you. And yeah, it certainly was that. Handed me the key to the place. He said, right, it's been vacant for 3 years, needs a lot of work. We're going to do it on a tight budget. Are you up for the challenge? I said, yep, sign me up. It's a beautiful building, 6 bed and 1 flat. We had a strategy of doing the flat up first, getting that rented out so we can use the income from that. And that's what we did. We're using, I think this project was really important to try and be as sustainable as possible. So we're trying to recycle, reuse as much as we can, whether that be pre-loved things from Facebook Marketplace, etc., do them up and put them in. And networking with other professionals to see what else we can get in there and just to kind of work it. Looking for a high standard, as we would expect to put out there now, and looking for sort of the professional market and just kind of give it a little bit of edge. So this one's a real fun project. I'm learning so much about the requirements from HMOs, how they work. And once again, it's so much easier than what I'd built it up in my mind. Is there anything I've missed, Arsh?
No, I think you've done really well. I'm just slightly conscious of the time.
Yeah, that's all I needed to say. Once again, if anybody wants to fire any questions over at me, I'm at the Property Wife, and I look forward to chatting to you soon.
Okay, so just so you know, in terms of the property for Cornwall, we had not had any service accommodation properties, nor had I done any research on service accommodation, nor do I still proclaim to know anything about service accommodation, because it's not a strategy that I know anything about. So when we took that property on, that has been solely Shireen, and I still don't know to this day what bookings are there, who's in, etc. So that's completely Shireen, and Shireen had to learn that from head to toe.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is that Ronnie has asked a question about how do we find those deals. I'll talk about those shortly. So Shireen,
yes,
get yourself home safely, and I'll see you shortly.
Lovely. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy.
So guys, that's my wife. I haven't spoken to her for a week, and that's the first time that I'm speaking to her. So brilliant. So that's giving you an indication that women, there's so many women. Go on Facebook, you go on Instagram, they're doing phenomenal things. They're finding deals. They're turning these tired properties into palaces, and these are properties that they don't own. So Shireen, all right, do not own these 2 properties that we talked about. The first one was the lease option. So we've leased it with the option to purchase. With this one, it is a straightforward rent to rent. We may have the potential to option in the potential to purchase within the future, but as it stands, they are deals that we do not own. Now, Shireen, even if I wasn't here, she negotiated those deals. So all I said was, Shireen, here's the deal. Here's what I think. What do you reckon? And I gave it to her, and she ran with it. So when you're saying that, yeah, but she had an Arsh in the background advising her, I wasn't. I refused to, because I wanted to see where Shireen took this. And she's grabbed it and she's taken it with both hands. And we're going to talk about the strategies as to how we get to these. So hopefully, just give my wife a bit of feedback. Obviously, that's why she did this. So okay, so moving on. So why do I love deal trading? So guys, if you're on social media and you're gonna want to watch the whole session, we're going to close the social media links in a second, and join us on the full session by going to bit.ly/2020 property strategy. So why do I love deal trading? First and foremost, I get to see the best deals first, and that's the reason why I do deal trading. Now, over the last couple of years, I've bought blocks of apartments, and these are things that I keep in my investment portfolio. So things that I do with Shireen are separate. The things that I do on a business day-to-day are completely separate as well. So I get to see all the best deals first. Now, I bought blocks and blocks of apartments. Now, I'm not talking about one flat in a block. I'm talking about the whole goddamn block. And that's the only way I will buy an apartment, is if I own the whole building. And so we've done, I think there's 80, so we've done a 30, 30 and a 20. And these are all deals that I would not have seen unless I knew how to deal source. I went direct to the vendor. Believe it or not, some of them were on the market, some of them were, my offers were rejected, and I had to go and source beyond the means to find the owner because I wanted those deals. So I get to see the best deals first. After I've looked at the deal, I'll appraise it and I'll say, is it for me or is it not for me? If it's not for me, the other thing that I will do then is trade it, and we'll talk about the strategy in a second. I broke it down into 3 easy steps. Now, the other beautiful things about deal trading is that there are no tenants, because in essence, if you don't keep the property, all you're doing is facilitating the sale, very similar to what an estate agent does. And as a result of no tenants, you're not dealing with any maintenance calls. Now, one of the biggest things with deal trading, and lots of people get into deal trading from the outset, pretty much from a starting point of view, is the fact that they don't have to put any money, they don't have to put any money up front to start the transaction. Does that kind of make sense? So do you see, okay, I'm just trying to break this down so that everyone understands. Imagine an estate agent. Imagine you're selling your house. When the estate agent comes to value it, do they say, well, in actual fact, I'll put some money down to secure it before we find a buyer? No, they don't. All they do is they say, okay, this is your house, this is how much it's worth. We'll now go off and find a buyer for it. They'll then put a for sale board outside your house. They'll then put the house up for sale, your particulars in the window, and then they'll put it on Rightmove, put it on Zoopla, put it on the market, and all the other places. And with a result of trying to drive traffic to your property with a view of trying to get a sale facilitated on your property. What makes this any different is the fact that unless we're actually going to put it on Rightmove and we're going to go and put a board outside, we're doing it for sale, and we're doing it via private treaty, which means that the vendor does not have a sale board outside their property, which means that all the neighbours don't know that their property is being sold, and sometimes they actually like the fact that they've got this discreet service, which means no money is actually trading, or it's not going through any hands. All we're doing, we're saying to the vendor, we will find someone to buy your property. We need to negotiate the deal to make sure that it's financially viable, and we'll find a buyer. So we put the purchaser and the vendor together. We make a fee as a result, and that is what is called deal trading, deal sourcing, deal packaging, whatever terminology you want to call it. That is the bricks and the bracks of it. We're not tying up any money. You may want to spend some money on creating a website, or like a one-page website there, and this is who we are, this is what we do, blah, 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 so that people can see that, and you've got pretty much like a shop front. But other than that, that's it. Like I said, I'm a simple guy, and I keep it very simple. The beautiful thing is that 1 minute I could be looking at a property in Birmingham. Next minute I could be looking at a property in Doncaster. Next minute I could be looking at a property in Scotland. Next minute I could be looking at a property in Bournemouth, which is a positive but also a negative. It's a positive because, have you ever heard of the saying, you either go fishing in the pond or you go fishing in the sea? Now, the way that I describe it is that an estate agent fishes in a pond. Going back to it, Connell's Wolverhampton can only fish in the Wolverhampton pond. Birmingham Connells can only fish in the Birmingham pond. Arsh Ellahi can fish in the whole goddamn sea, which means that I've got all the opportunities all over the country. So does that make sense? Just think about that for a second, and think about the opportunity that is sitting right in front of you. You can deal with any property in any town, any city, or even country. Now, I'll give you an example about country later on in this presentation, because I'm going to be talking to you about a gentleman who's not actually based in the UK. He's actually based in Saudi Arabia, but he's still trading properties in the UK. He's not even in the same time zone as us, and he's still smashing it on deal sourcing. The beautiful thing as well, it can be started and stopped whenever you require. It can be done from anywhere around the world. All you need is a mobile phone and a laptop. And sourcing does not have to stop at property. The skill can be used to source almost anything. Also, massive benefits: no solicitors required, no surveyors required, no refurbishment works required, no builders or no contractor required, which means that it's actually, in fact, very risk-free. So hi Oasis, I've just seen that you've logged in. Because you don't own anything, there's nothing that can go wrong. An estate agent, when they come to sell your property, do they say, well, you know what, in actual fact, if I don't sell it, I'm going to pay you for your time? No, they don't. And if they did, that would be a phenomenal service. But that means that they would be accountable to you and your property. They would never put their neck on the line. They would never guarantee that they can sell your property. So from their point of view, it's completely risk-free. And that's exactly the same as the deal sourcer, as the deal trader. I can go to them, I can negotiate a great deal and say, guys, okay, I'm going to try and sell your property. But again, there's no guarantee that they're going to sell it. You know, I'll arrange, I'll do everything I can to try and find a buyer for your property. And if it doesn't sell, that gives us then an opportunity to go back to Mr. and Mrs. Smith or the vendor and say, guys, okay, you know, we tried, we put it out to a massive database, they haven't bit on the bait. You know, it could be that it's the wrong style investment. It could be that it's not at the price that we need it to be right now. And as a result, that gives us the opportunity to then go back and renegotiate on the deal. And there's nothing wrong with that. How many times have you seen an estate agent initially put the house up for £100,000? 2 months later, it drops down to 95,000. What do you reckon they've done? They've come back and they've renegotiated with you. I think we should drop the price, Mr. Smith. You know, we've had lots of people look at it, but unfortunately, no one has made you an offer. I think if you drop it by £5,000, I think we might actually get a buy for it. Remember, deal sourcing is not rocket science. We just replicate what's already been in the marketplace. Am I making sense here? You know, am I actually making sense? Feel free, give me, you know, if you're on social media, give me a thumbs up, give me a wave, do what you're going to do. If you're on the webinar, just, you know, is it starting to hit home as to what we do? Right, okay. Now I'll talk about markets I'll talk about markets very quickly, and then we're going to cut off on social media, and then you've got to join the webinar. So there's the three in the market. We've got the boom. This is when the sellers are in control and the prices continue to increase. You know, so let's just say that it's the seller's market. They're not going to go for below market value deals because they think, oh, you know, actual fact, someone's going to pay market value for my property. In the bust, you know, back in 2007, 2008, when the market collapsed, buyers were struggling. Buyers were, you know, they were running scared. Sorry, not the buyers, the sellers were running scared because that house that they thought that was now worth 100 grand has actually just dropped 20% in value. The buyers are now in control. You know what? Don't need to buy your house. I'll go to next door. They're more of a motivated way to sell. So, you know, they'll probably do a better deal with me than what you will. And the trader, which is where I am, I sit in a perfect position. The reason being is that I'll adjust my pricing according to whatever is happening in the economic climate. Now, we're talking about uncertainty in the market. What's going to happen with Brexit? What's going to happen to property prices? What's going to happen with the introduction of Section 24? What's going to happen with interest rates? Are they going to remain at all-time low? Are they going to increase? If they increase, how many people are going to be underwater? How many people are not going to be able to afford their mortgage? With Section 24 and an interest rate hike, that could be the end for lots of property investors. And the economy, how will the UK adjust after leaving? No one knows that answer yet. You know, there've been some turmoil in the marketplace. We saw London for the first time in God knows how long actually take a drop in price. Everyone thought that that was the untouchable bubble. But guess what? They dropped in price. People from London started to shop further up north. They've started to go up to the likes of Blackpool. They've started to go up to Hull. They've started to come out of the M25 corridor and go up the country. So let's get the basics of this, of deal sourcing. You've got the vendor, you've got the sourcer, and you've got the investor. The vendor is the person that needs help selling their property. And they probably had an agent that may have been trying to sell their house for the last 3 months. Now, I come along as a deal sourcer and say, guys, okay, I kind of understand property, probably a little bit more than Connell's. So, Connell's probably been trying to sell a HMO and they've probably not put it in the best light. I appreciate, sorry, if someone's watching this from Connell's, this is just an example. So please don't come at me with any lawsuits, that'd be great. I'm probably better understanding investment properties than lots of estate agents out there. And in respect, I'll put together an offer which I believe is going to be the best possible, put it in the best possible light for my investors. As a result, I'll then put it out to my investors, or I'll match make it with some of my investors that I know that are looking in the area. I'll say, guys, okay, here's the property, here's what it is now, here's how much it's making, here's what it can become. And as a result, they come and view it, they like it, they pay us a fee for our service, bang, 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 and it's done. We can potentially sell now just off the app. Just so you know, if I put something up in the morning, chances are by the afternoon that's sold. And vendors love the fact of that speed. And sourcers work at such a speed. Now, with the vendor, we've got to understand what is a pain and what is a motivation. From a sourcer's point of view, we've got to understand how is it that we can add value. And from the investor's point of view, we've got to kind of understand why is it that they would buy this property over everything else that they've probably seen. So do you understand the mechanics as to how we are such an instrumental part to the whole transaction? Without us, our investor won't see the property. Without us, the seller would not be selling their property quickly. So we play an instrumental part, and as a result, we've got to be paid for that service. So guys, just so you know, right now we're closing off social media, we're closing off Facebook, we're closing off Instagram, we're closing off YouTube. If you've loved the session, I'd love to have you on the rest of the session. So go to bit.ly/2020 property strategy, and I'll see you all soon. Take care. Good night. So guys, on the webinar, let's get moving on, because I've got some real gold for you. I've got some real gold for you. So we talk about monetize every lead. Now, when you hear this, you're going to think, why did I not think of this? Now, have you ever heard of this term, buy, sell, rent? Buy, sell, rent, buy, sell, rent, BSR, BSR. Write this down, BSR, buy, sell, rent. This is probably the most important thing that you'll hear. Okay. I go to a vendor. Go back to Shireen's 2 properties. Now, someone said earlier, how do I source these properties? The one in Cornwall, believe it or not, was actually listed on Gumtree. Someone looking to sell their property. And I said to them, guys, okay, they wanted a certain amount, and I couldn't make that figure work at that figure. And I said to them, here's what I think I can do. So when I say buy, can I buy it off them? When I say sell, can I sell it for them? When I mean rent, can I rent it off them? Can I buy it off them? Can I sell it for them? Can I rent it off them? BSR, BSR. Keep this in your mind, BSR. Does that make sense? So every time you look at a property, you should be able to monetize every lead. When you go out to that deal and that figure, you can't kind of get to that figure. You think, well, you know what? Okay, how many of you would have walked away from that property? So if, let's say, it's worth 100,000 and you've offered 70,000, but yet they owe 90,000, how many of you would have said, you know what, okay, it doesn't sit my strategy. I wish you the best of luck, but the property's not for me. A very high percentage of you. But then how many of you have actually followed up and said, you know what, okay, I appreciate that I can't buy it off you, but I've got another strategy where I can't offer you the figure that you want, but I may have someone that can. So do you mind if I sell it for you? And if the figures don't stack up for the buy or the sell, we go in with plan C. Plan A is to buy, plan B is to sell, plan C is, okay, we understand we can't buy it because our figure's not enough. We understand that we can't sell it because I don't think we're going to be able to find someone that's going to be able to meet that requirement. Or, you know, you're in negative equity. How about if I rent it off you? And the benefits of me renting it off you is this, this, and this. Now, straight away, Mr. Bashir says, exactly, wow. I can't believe how many deals I've missed out on as a result of only focused on buying. I guarantee you that if you follow this simple three-step process, buy, sell, rent, you will monetize every deal. Sounds simple, but let's try it. Now, when we talk about deal sourcing, we kind of talk about people. We automatically assume that we have to be in the country. I talked to you about earlier about a guy that's actually based out in Saudi Arabia. This is Rahil Jakura. Rahil actually has been working with me for about 3 years. Based in Saudi Arabia, is actually a very active property family man, and that's his reason why. He works extremely hard to ensure that his family have a very good lifestyle. He works 12 hours a day as an engineer in Saudi Arabia. Believe it or not, he's 4 hours ahead of us. So I tried to get him on the webinar tonight, but he goes, Arsh, he goes, at 8 o'clock or, you know, half past 8 by the time you get to this point, it's going to be 12:30 where I am, which means that it's going to be too late for me, unfortunately. He works 12 hours a day, and after he finishes his 12-hour day shift, he then spends another hour every night searching for deals. And since I've known Rahil, he sources approximately 3 to 4 deals every month, literally by scouring agents and scouring platforms where properties or sellers are selling their properties directly. And he follows the very simple system of BSR. The average fee that he's done per deal is approximately £3,000. Now, he's got an added advantage. The fact that when he calls, now his USP very simply is that when he speaks to an agent, I told him, said, you know what, I'm actually based in Saudi Arabia. I'm based in Saudi Arabia. Now, all of a sudden, all the estate agents that he speaks to will instantly think he's a cash-rich Saudi investor. Does that make sense? Little do they know that he's not actually buying the property. It's only when he starts to look at what he's doing and what he's actually doing that they actually understand it, and as a result, they're happy to deal with him. And every property that he's put through, he's sold within the space of 48 hours. I could talk to you about deal after deal after deal of deals that he's done. Now, I'll just give you an example. There's on the app, there's a block of 4 flats in Newton, I think it is Newton Street. That was his. He had that on with an agent, and he sold that instantly. As well as that, he's built a small portfolio of rent-to-rent properties, all fully managed, all from being outside the country, from a property from somewhere where he's not actually in the same country, where he's not even actually in the same time zone, all done in a different country and different time zone. Now, anyone got any questions about? Okay, so Rob says, did he sell his deals via the app or via his own investors list? It's actually, believe it or not, a combination. He's actually done quite a few via the app and my investor list, and he's actually started to build his own property investor list, and he's sold quite a few via that too. So he's been very active in building his own list. Now, so we'll talk about that shortly, but has anyone got any questions so far? You know, I've just shared some extreme, you know, some tips that I wouldn't normally share publicly about the BSR system. Has anyone got any questions on that? So, okay, so George says, what's the process of selling these deals? Now, George, okay, you're a property investor. You've got to literally, okay, so the process very simply is that once you've been to the vendor and you've negotiated the deal, the next thing that you've got to do is understand, is this a deal that is going to be attractive to a property investor? And when we talk about that, we've got to look at it in lots of different lights. Is it below market value? Is it a good rent to rent property? Is it a good cash flowing property? Has it got a decent return on investment? Is it a good property which can be stacked up as a yield basis? Has it got development opportunity? Has it got cash flow opportunity? Could it potentially be turned into HMO? Could it be stuff like service accommodation? I'm not very big on service accommodation, and I make no apology on that. So you've got to look at the angle. So it's a two-bed. If let's say if you're looking at a two-bed house, why would someone buy that two-bed house? And I always say that you've got to, as a property sourcer, you've got to sit there with two hats on. The first hat is me as a property sourcer. What can I do to add value to this property? The second hat is me as a property investor. If someone was to approach me with this opportunity, would this be a good deal? If the answer is yes, then you've got a deal. If the answer is no, you've really then got to come back up with an answer as to how you're going to be able to add value to that property. Finding a property as a single let isn't very exciting, and it's not going to sell instantly because there are far better deals out there. And you know, in the marketplace where we are, where there are quite a lot of deal sources, you've got to make sure that your property actually stands out in that marketplace. Does that make sense? So teacher's manual says, well, how exactly do you do this? Well, it's a great question, because first thing that you need to do is understand, by putting some steps in place, are you going to decide how much time are you going to dedicate to it? Are you going to do what Rahil's done? Are you going to spend an hour a night? Are you going to spend a couple of hours a night? Are you going to spend a weekend doing it? How much time have you got? The more time you put into it, the higher rate of success, based on the fact that Rahil puts in 5 hours a week, gets him 3 deals a month, which is equivalent to one deal a week. But it's not all very much, it's all about finding the right deals and finding the right investment deals. Now, to start with, you'll probably look at a lot of stuff and it won't stack up, probably because you're looking at it in the wrong light. However, by actually spending a bit of time and understanding the investment model and understanding what investors are after, you'll be able to build a pipeline of deals which literally will be sold one after the other. And this is exactly what Rahil has done. So I'm telling you, okay, there's lots of questions coming through at the moment, loads of questions. So who views the property? Okay, so for us, this is a beautiful thing. You don't well, on the app, all the properties that we've sourced, we haven't actually physically gone and viewed a single one, nor has Rahil gone and viewed a single property based in Saudi Arabia. It's impossible for him to go and view. He's based on the other side of the country. He's based on the other side of the world. So you get other people to do it. You've got services like Viewer, you've got estate agents, you've got letting agents that can all go and do that for you. Okay, so there's loads of questions. Estelle's asked a question about the BSR approach. What's the pro for the vendor if you rent Plan C? How would they move on and buy another property themselves, assuming they want to sell existing to move elsewhere? Now, if they've got no equity in the property, they may be selling. Now, the one thing that I would say to you, Estelle, is first thing that you need to understand when you're dealing with any vendor is understand their motive behind selling. Understand what is their pain and understand what is their motivation. Why should they deal with you? Why would they not go with an estate agent? What are you offering that they're not, other than speed, which is a massive factor? Is it that they can get more money? Is it that you can offer added value? Is it that the fact that they like your personal approach as opposed to a corporate approach? Is it the fact that you can get it done a lot quicker? Is it the fact that you understand the property better than the agent? So the one thing I will say to you, when we talk about the BSR, is the fact that you are in the position to create a real win-win scenario. Does that kind of make sense? So there's loads and loads and loads of questions coming in through. Sorry, I'm trying to catch them all, and I will catch them. One thing I will say to you is stay on right till the end, and I will do a Q&A session with you. Okay, so let's keep moving on. So I'm launching what is called a 30 deals in 30 days challenge, believe it or not. And the first day is actually, we actually start the first webinar on Monday, the 3rd of February, which is a week on Monday. And what the aim is to get a group of people who want to join a program called the Elite Property Tribe. And we're going to do a 30 deals in 30 days challenge, which is pretty much starting you off on the right mindset. So getting you in the right place, in the right mindset. And we start with a day on the phones, throw you completely in at the deep end. So I booked a day with a hotel in Wolverhampton. It's Friday the 7th of February, so it's a week this Friday, I believe. Yeah, it's a week this Friday. You have to be in Wolverhampton. It's in 10 till 5, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's in the location is Wolverhampton. And I pretty much want everyone in that room to find a deal. Now, how are you going to do that without knowing that? We're going to run a webinar on Monday, the 3rd of February. You're going to come and spend the day with me on Friday, the 7th of February. And there are going to be deals done on that day. Now, there's some questions saying, well, who are we going to call? We're not going to call Ghostbusters. We are going to call lots of agents. We are going to find deals, direct to vendor, and I'll be showing you all the methods as to where to find deals, and we're going to be selling deals live on the day too. So it's a day of action. It's not one of these, I'm going to talk to you about the theory and you're going to think about it. This is all practical. It's a day of action. It's a day looking for deals. It's a day speaking to vendors and agents. It's a day appraising deals. It's a day calculating the returns on investments. It's a day looking at the hotspots and looking at the supply and demand. And it's a day working with other fellow EPT members. EPT stands for Elite Property Tribe. And it's only available to EPT members. Now, the guy on the right-hand side, we're going to talk about someone that had no property experience and did his first deal within the first week. Jay, on the top right-hand side of the picture, Jay Uday, no property experience, no money to invest, a full-time teacher. I don't know why I attract teachers, but I do. And he came and spent a day with me in the office. It's called a shadowing day, where you get to sit opposite me and I get to listen to every one of your conversations. I get to hear what you're saying to the agents. I get to hear what you're saying to the vendor. I get to understand how's your negotiation skills. I get to understand what is your pattern. I get to understand what's your rapport building like. I get to understand how you're negotiating this deal. And as a result, within that day, he negotiated 2 HMO deals, which were sourced, packaged, and actually sold to my investors. And he actually generated 10 grand in sourcing fees from that day. A complete newbie investor. Teacher's manual, you've got lots of questions, and I will actually answer every single one of them because they are phenomenal questions. So, as part of the Elite Property Tribe, like I said, it starts on Monday the 3rd of February. And what it is it's a 52-week program where I give you access to a network of professionals, access and support to me personally, where you get the knowledge and skill based, and so you don't make the mistakes that I already have. And you have a weekly webinar every Monday where I handhold you through the whole process. It's a live session between 7 and 9 p.m. We also meet up 4 times a year as a live, exclusive live meet where we have keynote speakers and you have the ability to shadow me. So what it is, in actual fact, it's a mentorship and accountability program. So the Elite Property Tribe is a deal sourcing program where I'm going to be by your side. It's not one where I'm just going to be doing lots of theory and you go off and do it. I want to show you the practical side where I'll be doing the phone calls with you, where we have live webinars, where we spend the day in the office, where I help you with the negotiations, where you have my personal mobile number. We have the private WhatsApp group, a private Facebook group, and an EPT learning journal, so that every call that you make, I want you to journal. I want you to log in your journal. The reason why I want you to log it in your journal so that I can understand what you said, who you spoke to, the phone number you called them on, and what are the follow-up calls and the actions that need to be done to that log. We've got an Elite Property Tribe platform which has over 400 hours of content, and we get to meet up 4 times a year in live people as well as the webinars as well. Now, just so you know, the actions, we've got the Elite Property Tribe journal, which I said. So on the webinars, you'll be making notes as to what did you learn on that day? What are the desired outcomes? What are the barriers? What are your 3 strengths? What are the limiting beliefs? So I ask everyone every week to fill these out. We've got the WhatsApp group, which literally has, you know, all the EPT members in there asking all kinds of questions. And then we've got the Elite Property Tribe Facebook group too. So what's on offer is in actual fact a 52-week online training program. We've got 6 cash flow strategies that we're covering, which is deal trading, rent to rent, lease options, HMO, service accommodation, commercial to residential development. So the aim of the Elite Property Tribe is not for you to go off and just go and smash deal sourcing. It's for you to become an all-rounded property investor, so that every deal you look at, you're going to be able to say, okay, I understand that it can't do this, but it can do this and it can do this, and as a result, we can monetize it because of this. So for you to become an all-rounded property investor so that you make your money on every property you see. So this is the part I don't enjoy, but I have to mention. The full price of the Elite Property Tribe is £6,000. However, we never ask you to pay that. You pay £3,000 up front, whether that be over 1 payment or 3 payments. And then the other balance is only paid when you do deals, which is my way of saying that I believe in you. And I believe the fact that you can do deals, because that's the whole reason of the program, to get you to do deals. And as I said, I'll always be by your side. And we're going to go through the Q&A session any minute now, where I'll always be by your side. We've got weekly live webinars, which is every Monday between 7 and 9 p.m. We get to spend the day in the office with me, where I'll be helping you with negotiations and problem solving. You'll have my personal mobile number, you'll have my private WhatsApp group, the Facebook group, the EPT learning journal, and the platform, plus the live meets with the keynote speakers. Not to mention the day that we're going to have on Friday the 7th in Wolverhampton, where it's going to be a day on the phones. And some of the deals, here's some of the deals that we've done over the last couple of days. So we've seen the HMO in Wolverhampton, we've seen the HMO in Stoke, we've done the rent-to-rent opportunity in Gateshead, we've done some single-let properties, we've done a 4-bed HMO in Doncaster, plus a 5-bed HMO in Berkshire, and another 2-bed terrace in Hull. These are all properties which are available on the Property Investor app, but all these deals are sold. So the one thing I want to say is that you've got to do something today that is going to actually, where your future self is actually going to thank you for, because this is actually the last chance for you to get involved in the Elite Property Tribe. I'll go through those in a second. So now is a Q&A session time. Now is a Q&A session. So let's start. Okay, so Lou says, the website, sorry, but the websites seem not working here. Okay, sorry, let me just quickly answer, let me quickly just answer that. So if I go to bit.ly/EPT 2020. So just so you know, it is text sensitive. So yes, it does work. So it is there. So if it's in capitals, you have to put it in capitals. If it's lowercase, you have to put it in lowercase. So yes, it does work. Okay, so sorry, that was one of the first questions. Okay, how soon can we complete the course? So George, just so you know, it is a 52-week program. So you can binge watch pretty much like Netflix all the sessions which are on the platform. And you can also do the live ones as well. So if you're just interested in rent to rent, you can just go straight to the rent to rent modules. Does that make sense? Okay, so Cash, are the 4 live meetups as part of the EPT over the weekend or weekdays? So generally speaking, they are Saturdays. The only one that we're doing, which is a day on the phones, is Friday the 7th. But generally speaking, all the other EPT live meets are on Saturdays. Okay, so teacher's manual. This is where hopefully you come into your own. Okay, so first question they've asked is that, can you speak to estate agents to get these deals? Absolutely. Now, you've got to remember one thing here. How do estate agents make their money? They make their money by simply selling properties. Where that purchaser comes from, they don't really care. Whether you find them the buyer or whether someone else finds them the buyer, as long as they've got a buyer that's paying their commission, they don't care where that deal comes from or where that purchaser comes from. You know, the beautiful thing about Deal Sourcer is that when I speak to an agent, I say to them, guys, I'm going to make my money off the buyer via a sourcing fee. You still make your money off the seller by the selling fee, which you would do normally. Would you be happy with that? In actual fact, what I'm saying to you is that if I find a buyer and bring them to your attention, are you happy with that? Of course they're going to say yes, because they're going to say, in actual fact, you know, you're finding me a buyer, I'm not doing any work, and I'm still making the same money. Does that make sense? So going back to some of your questions, does the deal require calling the estate agents? So some of them, yes, I'd like you to try and find the deals where you go direct to the vendor, because you're going to get a better deal by going to the vendor. Going back to my property in, or should I say Shireen's property in Cornwall, if that property was on with an estate agent, would I have been able to structure the 10-year lease option with an estate agent? Chances are no. The reason being is that because estate agents don't understand the intricate details behind what goes on between a rent to rent and a lease option, and potentially an exchange and delay completion, or a planning gain opportunity. This would go straight over their head. As far as an estate agent would be considered, they'd say, you know what, this is far too complicated. Let's just try and find a standard buyer for the property. And in actual fact, they would actually be advising their clients, who is the vendor, to not do it. And that has happened to me in the past. But this all comes down to how you explain it. And you've got to remember that if I'm telling the estate agent one thing, we're then reliant on the estate agent to interpret that information and then pass it on to the vendor, who is then going to probably receive it in a different format and not understand it. And instantly, what's the first thing that happens when you don't understand something? If I was to say to you, okay, George, you've got a property there, it's £100,000, but I'll tell you what, how about if I say yes to the £100,000, but I'll give you that £100,000 in 10 years' time? What's the estate agent going to say? Hang on, am I going to get paid in 10 years' time? Why would I accept that deal? I would be saying to a client, I think this is a bad offer, you should not be taking it. As a result of that, you'll find that your offer will never get accepted. So you've got to understand what to say and what not to say to estate agents in order for you to be able to negotiate and get the deal. So yes, it can be done, but you need to understand the intricacy details about what to do. Does that make sense? Okay, so Mr. Bashir says, does the source property need to be vacant? Absolutely not. In actual fact, it's a negative if it is vacant. Now, you've got to ask yourself now, Mr. Bashir, if you had two opportunities of buying properties, now just put your hands out in front of you. The hand on the right is a property which is income generating, making money, got tenants in, is performing extremely well. The house on the left is a property which is vacant, has not been occupied for a couple of months. They're both the same money, both the same style of property. Which one would you go for? As a property investor, which one would you go for? Would you go for income or vacant? Answer that question. I would say 9 out of 10 would go for the one that's income. Okay, so Jenny says, apart from the EPT fee, how much do I need to have to start a rent-to-rent property if I was to keep my property myself? Now, Jenny, that's a great question because it all comes down to the property and the condition of the property. Now, some properties may be a little bit tired, which means that you may need to put a bit of money into it. You may decide that you want to do it, or you may decide that you want to trade it. The property that Shireen has just taken on, it needs some work. Obviously, it's been vacant 3 years. So we're putting the money in, but in actual fact, the way that we've structured it is that we're putting the money in, but we've structured it where we've got a decent period, rent-free period. So we've agreed that we're not paying a deposit, we're not paying any rent up front. We've actually got 3 months rent-free. And then off the back of that, that has kind of calculated that in actual fact, the owner is actually paying for the refurb of the property. Does that make sense? So if you structure it in the correct manner, it works extremely well. The owner saw it as, you know what, in actual fact, it's been empty 3 years. I'm sure I can weather 3 months worth more of payments. The way that we looked at it is that in actual fact, okay, if the property was done up to a decent standard, we'd be paying rent from day one. So in actual fact, we don't want to put the money in, but in actual fact, we're not having to put the money in plus pay rent. So you've got to understand with rent to rent, it all comes down to what is it that you offer. Okay, so teacher's manual says, but you can't buy it straight away. Every deal is different. There's no two deals that are the same. Let me get that straight. There are no two deals the same. It's not like, I'm assuming you're a teacher. It's not like your plan that, and this is a perfect example for you if you are a teacher. No two days in your profession are the same because you don't know how your kids are going to react tomorrow. You can put certain things in place, but you don't know what's going to happen when you get to school tomorrow. Exactly the same with property. You can have 2 houses on the same street and no 2 properties the same. 2 vendors, 2 separate circumstances, 2 different kind of mortgage products. One's mortgaged up to the hilt, the other one's got no mortgage. One's going through, all kinds of scenarios. So don't overthink it right now. I can see, just from the questions you're asking, you're overthinking it from day one. So does that kind of make sense? So Christian says, would you advise someone with 50k to grow its capital? How will you advise someone with 50k to grow its capital? Now, Christian, there's lots of ways that you could do that with 50k. Now, if you were to go off and buy the property, depending on where you buy it in the UK, you could buy quite a few properties up north. You could probably buy 1 property down south, but it all depends on what you've got that vision with that 50k. You want to grow the capital. Do you want to keep refinancing it? Do you want to lend it to someone? Do you want to? There's so many opportunities. I'll put my mobile number at the end of this presentation. If you want to have a chat tomorrow, I'm more than happy to have a chat. Okay, so we'll keep moving on. Do you teach flipping in your program? Absolutely. That's the whole program. That's the whole process. I'm teaching you how to source property. As a result of sourcing property, you decide what you do. Are you going to buy it? You're going to keep it? You're going to sell it? Hello, wife. How are you? How are you? So are you going to sort of buy it? You're going to keep it? You're going to sell it? You're going to trade it? You decide what you're going to do when you're sourcing that property. Okay, so Faisal says, do you do commercial deals? Absolutely. Commercial deals are easier to do than residential deals. And the reason why I say that is because they're more commercially minded. They've probably not got as much gearing as residential guys. And just give you an example, how much harder is it to let commercial than it is residential? Therefore, the more motivated to do a deal. Okay, so teacher's manual says, what if a seller is looking to sell their properties due to Section 24? Believe it or not, that is actually very common right now. So many portfolio landlords are downscaling, and that's great because from my point of view, I'm picking up portfolios of phenomenal money. Cash says, do you also cover any areas on how to source deals from auctions? Believe it or not, Cash, that's a massive part of it as well. I'll be showing you what to do, how to go through the auction process. Okay, okay, let's keep going through. Sean says, can I bring my business partner on the day? Sean, if you're an EPT member, yes, you can bring your business partner with you. I'm happy for you to do that, providing that you can confirm that you're your business partner, not just someone that you found on the, as a friend or trying to share the cost with someone on Facebook, something like that. Okay, so Ben says, what's stopping an investor getting a good property deal from a sourcer and then approaching the vendor themselves, skipping the finder's fee? Ben, great question. Believe it or not, there's lots of documentations that you can put in place to ensure. It's called a circumvention agreement. Literally, basically means saying that if I'm putting a property here, you've got to sign this document to say that you've seen the property come through me, and as a result, if you do that, I can take you to court, and there's lots of things that you can put in place. So don't panic about that. Right, let's keep moving on. Okay, so teacher's manual says, do you need to be registered as a company? It's always advisable, and the one thing I will say is that all sources need to be compliant. So you need to be you need to be registered with anti-money laundering regulations. You need to have a membership with the PRS, the Property Redress Scheme. You need to be a member of the ICO, which is the Information Commissions Officer, and then you need to have some form of public liability insurance. So these are little things that you need to do, very easy to do. But like I said, let's get you moving and working on business. So when sourcing, do you request any documents from the buyer other than the NDA and T's and C's, and when do you get paid? Now, Rob, I'm probably a rare breed, but I ask people to pay me first. And the reason why I ask them to pay me first is so that if they do go to the vendor and they negotiate a better deal, you know what? I've already been paid. So I put I've got lots of terms of businesses to ensure that there's, I'm not going to be cut out of the equation. Does that make sense? So I'm getting through all the questions as quickly as I can. Okay, so Callum says, hi Arsh, what would you say are the negatives for rent to rent, i.e. landlord not paying their mortgage? Now, Callum, you can put lots of, and the one thing I say about rent to rent is that it's so easy for you to negotiate terms. Now, give you an example. If you're the landlord and you've got that property, you wanted to try and renegotiate the terms with your mortgage company, what do you reckon the mortgage company is going to say? They're going to say, Callum, you're already my client, you've already signed to my terms and conditions, either like it or sell the property and go away. With rent to rent, the negotiation with the vendor is a lot easier, it's a lot more relaxed, and as a result, they just want to make sure that the rent's getting paid. You can structure things in place to make sure that the rent that you pay goes directly to the mortgage company. There's so many things that you can do. So don't panic about that. For me, I don't see rent to rent as a negative. The way that I see rent to rent is a case of acquiring property without the need of the 25% deposit, without the need of solicitors, without the need of mortgage brokers, without surveyors reports, and I can literally walk into a property tomorrow, negotiate a deal with the vendor. I can walk out with the keys tomorrow afternoon. And I've perfected that. I walk out with the keys even before the contracts have been signed. Okay, so Ron. Okay, so Mr. Bashir, for tax purposes, does deal sourcing come under property trading? We're under the same tax code, believe it or not, as an estate agency. We're governed by the same body as the estate agency. We fall actually under the Estate Agency Act. So, Okay, so what do you do if a commercial property needs a refurb in terms of packaging the deal? You pack it. So okay, so Mr. Ayanal, sorry, I apologise if I've pronounced your name incorrect. If the property needs a refurb, you structure that into your negotiation. The vendor already knows it needs a refurb. Does that make sense? So don't panic if it needs a refurb. You said to them, guys, okay, the reason why you're doing this is because of this, and here's what I can offer is because this, this, and this. Okay. Okay, so Ron says, I was speaking to a landlord 6 months ago about a 6-bed HMO property. He just signed a contract with a HMO letting agency and the contract's now coming to an end. Ron, you should be following up with that. You should have been following up with that about 2 months ago. Does that make sense? Okay, so Faisal's coming with a question. Do commercial properties require VAT on purchase price? Some do, some don't. Some have been elected for VAT, some haven't. So every property is different. You know, majority of commercial buildings like public houses may have VAT, some may not. And it's very easy for the VAT to be removed on it as well by asking for it to be my mind's gone dead, but it is you can deselect it from becoming VAT applicable. Okay, okay. So Ron says not 6-bed HMO. He had 6 houses that are HMOs. Okay, fantastic. So Ron, again, that's for you to follow up. Okay, so Teacher's Manual says, do you have a WhatsApp group? Yes. So just so that you know, we've got the WhatsApp group, we've got the Facebook group, and we've actually got the platform. So the platform, in actual fact, let me if I tell you, if I go to, let me just see, you've got the back. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a quick guided tour as to what the back end of the platform looks like. No, I'll tell you, I'll go through the front end. So when you go into the platform, you'll see, remind me later, I don't need to see that. So this is what the front end, so if I click on the Elite Property Tribe, so when you get a login, you can only log into here when you've got the deal sheet templates, you've got the learning journal, you've got the documents, we've got all kinds of documents, we've got flow charts, we've got cash flow calculators, we've got mind map, deal sorting documents, we've got lease option documents, JV partnership documents, rent-to-rent documents, scripts, we've got webinars, we've got all the webinars from all these. We've got the EPT buddy scheme, we've got the forum, we've got the curriculum. So just to give you a bit of an indication as to what the curriculum looks like. So welcome session, we've got, we look at all the different strategies, we look at the legislation, we look at how to find buyers, how to sell the deal, how to find deals, how to deal with a network with other sources, the different types of properties, the different types of legal contracts, how to use Rightmove, the importance of a floor plan, buying BMV stock, the script, the different types of HMOs, HMO registers, spare room, Gumtree, how to package a deal, strategic financing, rent to rent, the paperwork required with rent to rent, what to do when you're taking on the property, where to advertise the property, lease options, the idea of a lease option, how to sell the idea of a lease option to the vendor, how to sell it to an estate agent. These are all modules that we've covered. So if you wanted to straight away, you could start watching the recordings of these straight away. Planning gains, auctions, commercial to residential, refurbishments, project management, JV partnerships, serviced accommodation, crowdfunding, financial planning, just to name a few. So we've got a full 52-week program. It's very much a practical approach, very much a practical approach. So Irfan says, as an EPT member, would you be help deciding what strategy is best on your circumstances? How many members are there in the EPT? So just so you know, guys, we take on an intake of 30 a year. Oh, sorry, 30 per intake. And we do 2 intakes a year. We do an intake in Jan, but we do an intake in July, June or July. And after we've hit that 30, we say, okay, now that's done. And as a result of that, one thing that we can do, if you wanted to, we could do the first session, having a look at what your circumstances are and deciding what strategy is best on you. But the first thing that we need to understand is obviously how to source, because obviously that will depend on what kind of deals you're looking to source. Okay. So, Reg says, not sure if you'd be prepared to answer this, but why would I choose EPT over Source.co? Okay, no, I'll answer that question. Absolutely, very easy. Source.co, first of all, is a franchise. Second of all, to get involved in Source.co, you need approximately minimum between 10 and 15,000 pounds, and you won't have the level of support that you have here. Do Source offer you 52 webinars? Do they offer you the opportunity for you to come to 4 live meets? Do they offer you the opportunity for you to come to the office as many times as you want? Do they have you the WhatsApp group? Do they have the Facebook group? You know, I know the guys behind Source. I know Chris, I know Steve, and they're great guys. But you know, in terms of that, in terms of the, and if the truth was to be told, I have the experience. I have the platform. The one thing I will say is that with all the deals that everyone does on the app, you have the ability to do a 50-50 split with me as a JV. So any deals that you find, you sell them to my database and we do a 50-50 split. Okay, so Raj says, yes, it's 15 grand. If you've got 15 grand, by all means, you're more than welcome to go there. And I can pretty much guarantee that for 20% of that, I will blow your socks away. Okay, so yeah, forgot to show the WhatsApp group. I'm happy to show the WhatsApp group. So the WhatsApp group, I'll do a screenshot of it in the middle there. So let's just have a quick look at what the WhatsApp group. Okay, let's have a quick look. Okay, so Faisal says, sorry, so Elite Property Tribe. So in the Elite Property Tribe, so here we go. Sorry, I can talk to you about all the days. So people asking about the day that's coming up on Friday. So other people, so I'm in here every day. So some people asking about 4-bed houses in Southend. Someone's asking about a grade 2 listed property and what they need to do with it. Jay's asking about other sources, about professional indemnity. I talked about what Tina had offered today, what she'd offered. So there's so much that goes on. You know, people asking about location. I can, you know, every day someone's asking a different legislation. I've been out to see a property and I've seen these fuse boards. Are they compliant? Kenny's asking about all kinds of different things. So again, someone's asking about all kinds of stuff. So I did also, just so you know, we've got a podcast coming out called The Property Rebel. That's going to be me launching in a couple of weeks. So there's so many different, you know, the platform is phenomenal. So Simon's coming and says, Arsh, who are the market purchasers of the source deals for new members? You have a database and a great app, so easier for you to sell. Okay, so sorry, who are the market purchasers of the source deals? So okay, so Simon, very simply, is that I will show you how to build your own platform. I will show you how to build your own database so that you can sell your own deals. You know, the fact is that property investors, if you've got a good deal, you can sell it to property investors all day, every day. Does that make sense? So if you found a deal, and I know a bit about your background because obviously we've spoken. If you've found a deal and it works, you know, to give you an example, you could go out and put it in a Facebook group, in a property Facebook group. Chances are you may get some biters, you may get some time wasters, but you've got to build that database. You've got to nurture that database. You've got to understand who you've got in your database, what their budgets are, what they're looking for, and try and do a matchmake service. So Abina says, looks fantastic, but looks fantastic. I'm gonna leave the webinar, but yeah, I'll be in touch. Okay, Abina, look forward to speaking to you. Okay, so I think I've answered pretty much I've pretty much answered all the questions. Let's quickly go through. So just give you a couple of things. So I've got a lot. I could spend hours giving you testimonials of EPT members that were already on there. So this is Priscilla, who's talking about since joining the EPT, she's learned all the different property strategies to become confident in talking to anyone about them. I've met some great people and have become friends and colleagues. Recommend anyone that's serious making a property career in property to speak to me. And I'm always there to help you through your challenges, as are many others in the WhatsApp group. I've got Sandy, who actually became a EPT member 3 years ago. Just the one thing I should say to you, that if you do become an EPT member, we don't charge you a full fee for the next year. If you want to stay on, it's just additional £300 a year to stay in the group and stay on the platform and stay within the community. And that's just to cover the cost of the admin of the group. So this is what Sandy said. She goes, with Arsh's hands-on mentorship and guidance, as well as support, I was able to learn both the soft and hard skills required to really turn this around and become a successful HMO owner and deal sourcer. This was also provided the funds I needed to pursue my other aspirations. I would sincerely recommend the EPT and Arsh's mentorship if you wanted to become a successful property entrepreneur and achieve financial freedom. As long as you're willing to put the hard work in, the opportunities are endless. And then finally, that is a property investor app. So, you know, as an EPT member, you can use the leverage of the property investor app to negotiate deals with vendors and agents and become the go-to person in your area. So there we have it, gents, ladies and gents. We've finally come to the end of the session. You've got my mobile number there. So if you want to have a chat with me, that's my personal mobile number. You're more than welcome to give me a call. If you want to have a chat about the EPT and you want to go through it, it is about, if you want to have a chat about the EPT, I don't, you know, with all due respect, don't call me and try and discuss what the weather's like in Wolverhampton. Let's speak about property. Let's speak about the Elite Property Tribe. I'm more than happy to have a chat with you anyway and wish where I can. Okay, so Raj says, after the initial 6K, what are the ongoing costs, please? So Raj, just that you know, as long as you've got a mobile phone, as long as you've got a laptop, the rest is all internet-based. It would be good for you to have a one-page website so people can look at your company and see who you are and what you're all about. Depending on how far you wanted to go, if you wanted to spend some money on some not leaflets, but letters, it's not something that I kind of advocate, but it still does work. But a lot of the stuff that I'm going to teach you to do is all online, and so that you're not having to spend a load of money on marketing or any money on marketing. I haven't advertised for a property for the last 10 years. Does that make sense? Okay. I think I've kind of answered pretty much all the questions. So guys, there you have it. If there are any questions, feel free. My mobile number's there. It's probably, you know, if you want to send me a text or you want to have a chat tomorrow, feel free to give me a call and let's see what we can do and let's go from there. But on that note, guys, I wish you a great week ahead. I wish you every success in your property journey. I wish you, you know, the best and do whatever you do. And if there's anything I can help with, I'm always more than happy to help. And I will speak to you all soon. Take care. Good night and God bless.